What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerdfuckers, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today we're going to be talking about possibly the oldest fan film, at least on YouTube, that we know of for Star Wars, or that I know of. It was mentioned to me after my last week's fan film review to look over it. It's called The Imperials Strike Back. Now this was started around 1978, I believe, and up until 1980. It was done before Empire Strikes Back and right after A New Hope. Now, this, I believe, was done by a couple of 10-year-olds. So I'm not going to get into too much about, issues. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know I'm quite nitpicky in breaking down every little thing, and I'm definitely not going to do that. It's a group of 10-year-olds that love Star Wars and made a fan film that was pretty interesting to watch. I enjoyed it for the most part. Again, I'm a bit analytical, so some little things kind of got to me a little bit. One, if you watch it, which please watch it, it will be linked down below. Please try to explain to me the full story, or break it down story beat by story beat, because I was confused. I watched it multiple times actually to try to figure it out with how it kind of pieced together fully or exactly what happened. There's some very interesting things. First, I'll talk about specifically what I think is really cool about it and why I think it should be watched. Is one, it's a group of 10-year-olds all coming together to make this idea, script, build sets, film it themselves. There was a period of time I actually kind of questioned whether or not that actually was true, that this was a fake shot at 1970. Say like they shot it a few years ago and pretended it was shot back then. There was a lot of really smart shots that was done. There was some not smart shots done, but there were some really smart shots done with. They were using toys for the ships, and a lot of the shots they would do very much close-ups. Like at the beginning, you see the Millennium Falcon, and it's shot right here, and then the two actors that are playing Luke and Han walk up, and they walk up, and the whole time they're looking up, and it gives the perception that they're walking up to the Millennium Falcon. And they did a lot of practical things that were very similar to how the original Star Wars was shot, which was very cool to see. With they had the background laid out, and then they had the toys on wires that they were kind of flying around, and it was really cool. It was really interesting to see the kind of ingenuity and creativity of a group of kids, and a lot of the sets were pretty cool actually. The way one of them, they had Luke walking up to get into one of the X-wings, and it was kind of legitimate the way they shot it. And there was a shot of him where it was like his cockpit, and there was actually a TIE flying behind him. There was a lot of really cool things, and for me, it's worth watching just to be able to see kind of just the creative ways they go about putting together some of these things. There's some things that I question, like what is it about? Am I missing something here? It could just be that it was 10-year-olds that did it. But for me, there was this one scene. Again, these are some of the things that I just want to explain. For me, if I missed it, I don't know. So the opening is Han and Luke talking, and they've got to go and pay off Jabba. Han does, but they're making the plan. They get in the Millennium Falcon and go to fly off, and then they run into this new ship that I believe they call the Imperial Death Ship, and they end up there's a getaway. It's kind of similar to A New Hope a little bit there, and then they finally get away and they head off, and Han does it. Han wants to continue to try to pay Jabba. Leia, basically, they kind of take the ship from them and say, no, we've got to return to Yavin, to end up telling everybody that this ship exists and that they need to prepare and do something. And so finally, once they get back to Yavin, Han finally is like, I've got to go pay off Jabba. And so he heads and pays off Jabba, and then he comes back, and it was like they barely made it, away with their lives, which I want to see what happened there. I want to see that story. I guess it's going to come out in a novel or a comic. As they're done, they're kind of walking off, and this random girl goes to kind of pat Han on the back, and he just kind of shrugs her off, and then Chewie goes and they kind of shrug her off, and I'm like, okay, that's a tip. Han's going to betray them, but he didn't. So well, why was that there? Or am I just looking too far into a 10-year-old's fan film? Maybe, I don't know. But it was very interesting seeing what they were able to do in that time. There was some interesting little notes that kind of reminded me of The Last Jedi, not in a bad way, because it wasn't done the same way as The Last Jedi was, but just kind of like, that's interesting, is they actually, spoiler alerts, please go watch it if you're interested in seeing all of that. I say that because I don't want to spoil it. It's a fan film. It's like 20 minutes. But anyways, they end up winning the day by crashing a ship into another ship that causes it to explode, which isn't exactly what happened in Last Jedi, but it's fairly similar, which is interesting that it came from that time. It wasn't through hyperspace or anything like that. There's a few other things that was kind of interesting, but also confusing to tell with the way it was shot, exactly how these things happened in the battle, which is why, explain it to me down below if you think you've got it figured out. And but it was shot really cool with the way it was done. With they would be using the toys, and then would cut to like a cockpit shot, and it was very interesting to see the ideas of what someone so young could do. That's very smart filmmaking, actually, for being able to explain and tell the story cinematically. The other interesting thing I found by watching this is seeing what kids thought would be coming next or picked up from the original Star Wars versus what we have come to expect from Star Wars. So one of the things is there was no lightsaber duels. I don't know if they just couldn't attempt, didn't have any way to be able to make it, which is possible with no like a CGI or anything like that. But I kind of almost feel like it was one of those things where they focused on Han and Luke because those were the characters that they kind of connected with more, and they didn't really bring it in. It was all focused on space battles, and you had Obi-Wan Kenobi come back in to speak to Luke at one point, which was interesting. But it was interesting to me that they focused on all space battles, and then they didn't have any lightsaber, nothing to do with a lightsaber duel. And I don't think there was much talk of the Force either, which is all kind of interesting to me. It could be because they have to do a story that they're capable of doing. I don't know, but I found all of those things fairly interesting. And then the connection in that they really harped on the Han and Jabba stuff, and it was interesting. I look forward to hearing some of your thoughts if you watch it and figure out some things that you find interesting for what was kind of in their head and why they might have made these decisions for showing certain things but then not showing other things. That's pretty much it for me and my thoughts on this. Again, I can nitpick, but I'm not going to do that with a group of 10-year-olds making a fan film. I think it was really cool to see a lot of their ideas and concepts. Oh, the other thing with The Last Jedi was after the fact, Luke goes and gets out of his X-Wing and walks up to Leia and is like, we won. And then Leia's like, yeah, but we lost a lot of good men, which is kind of, it connects with The Last Jedi. So did Ryan steal this as well? Is this a script Ryan stole? That's my question. That's what we should really be asked here. No, I don't want to talk about the stupid idiot right now. But anyways, I thought those were all interesting. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions about the fan film. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, I'm sorry I forgot who mentioned it to me in the last video. I should have looked it up before I started filming this. But anyways, thank you for mentioning that. I'm always open to more ideas of fan films to watch. And again, help me with what exactly the story was in here. It was very confusing at points for me, and I want to know if I missed anything, or maybe if I'm looking too far into everything and the possibilities of what's to come, and are they setting up twists and stuff that someone should not be expecting when watching a 10-year-old's film. The high note is they had less childish humor in this than Rian Johnson did. But then again, they're probably more mature than him. And on that note, I will end it. Thank you very much for watching. And never forget, you nerf herders, I love you.